I'd like to call a meeting to order. Today's November 18th. It's 12:05 p.m. Thanks everybody for turning out. Today's the big one, our fourth and final meeting of the year. We have a pretty good agenda today, although Tracy from Verdantis couldn't make it, but Nick will step in.
I will step up.
Calls and fill it out. Before we get started, if we can get a roll call of who's here.
Alicia Saslam.
Don Sullivan, Osapisi. Paul Malella, North Atlantic States Charter. Rick Jordan, Town Planner, Paul Ivano, County Planning Council. Jane O'Brien, Town Planner for the Town of Bridgewater. Charlie Kilmer, Planning Council. Charlie Silly, Town Administrator.
Nick Chiaquinto, Senior Economic Development Planner here at OCPC. And, sorry, go ahead.
No time.
Online, we're gonna try to make things quick because we have a big agenda, so I'm just gonna run through the folks we have attending today. Andrea Burton, Deborah Roberts from the town of Stoughton, Joe Metch from Brockton Area Transit, Sue Murray from SEED, President of OCPC, Becky Coletta, Jeff Charnell from Southeastern Savings Bank, also Counselor-elect of the City of Brockton, Counselor at Large. Laura Buckley from South Shore, Mass Hire. Mass Hire Greater Brockton Workforce Board, I assume that's probably Jason in Lorraine. And who am I missing? I think that's it. I think we're good.
I'm Jonathan Jamolis, Chair and Cape Cod Cafe and Italian Kitchen. All right, it's good to need to approve the meeting minutes for our last meeting, which was June 4th, I think.
Yes.
Does everyone have any edits or comments on these, or can I entertain a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, all's in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion to approve meetings and approved. Item 3 is about the MTC grant. So OCPC got another great grant. This is to designate the Route 24 corridor of the hub. And I know Paul's working very hard on this. So Paul, would you like to take us a few minutes and tell us what's going on?
Sure. So as John mentioned, we have been designated as a tech hub for this region.
I could ask you, could we speak a little higher, a little louder just for this?
Sure.
Make sure it captures us.
So as John just mentioned, we are designated as a tech hub for the Route 24 corridor. Specifically the 6 communities along the corridor: Avon, Brockton, Bridgewater, East Stoughton, and West Bridgewater. So we're really excited about this. So we will have that designation for the next 3 years. Recognized by the Commonwealth. Obviously, we'll be working on a branding strategy that puts along with that. But as part of this, we are receiving grant funding to do a strategy development for the next 12 to 18 months. And again, Route 24 is part of this overall pilot, as we're calling it. But the goal is to build an overall unified strategy to include all the communities in our region at some point. But again, right now we're in the strategy building and development phase. And what this really is going to do is support a lot of different industries. It includes advanced manufacturing, robotics, photonics, automation, medical device production, you name it. There's really a niche here in this region, and all of our communities really provide a lot of those key industries with really a nice mix. So why we're here, why we're doing this, it's really again to position this region as an hub for advanced manufacturing and tech, and to really build a skilled workforce pipeline. I'll explain about that in a little bit, but the overall goal here at the end of this is to support existing companies that we have in our region, but also at the same time attract new ones. So at the end of the day, we want to build them all, but obviously bring the new ones into our communities. And we're going to do that by creating again a unified strategy that looks towards the long term and how we build this, but also looking at bringing new funding, right? So this is just the beginning of an overall strategy of how we look to get more planning dollars, maybe from the EDA, whatever gets stacked together. But also from any other federal grants that may become available as part of the administration's obvious initiative to be more friendly towards American manufacturing. So how are we doing it? We're doing it in a really comprehensive top to bottom approach. So working with industry leaders, and what you see listed there are just a few of the ones that we partner with and reached out to. We've almost got up to around 30 industry leaders to sign up on that application in this region, which is huge. But also working with our workforce partners who are on the call today, so Mass Hire, Greater Brockton and South Shore Career Centers. We're really gonna be the leaders alongside of us to really develop this coalition. But also working with our educational partners. And the key ones in our region are Stonehill, BSU, South Shore Boat Tech, Southeastern Regional, Brockton High. But we can't forget the high schools and iconic communities as well, making sure we work with them. And then, of course, the municipalities that I just talked about, in our region, and making sure we, work with them in terms of the community engagement piece, developing out the strategy in terms of policy and need, but also the connection with the local businesses, which I think is also an important piece to this. And then just a brief snippet about our region. So, we have over 60 advanced manufacturing firms in just in this border in county. That's over 5,500 workers. And again, it's covering all the different fields you see here, from aerospace, IT to food production, which is amazing. So what are we solving with this? So the challenges we're solving is really to fix the shortage that we're seeing both in the middle and high skills. So we want to make sure we're covering a wide net with this, in terms of, the educational level that we're seeing in our region. And as you know, we're seeing hiring delays that are affecting production in our region relative to these key industries. And we're just seeing limited training programs in some of the more high automated fields like robotics, CNC and automation. And last point I want to make on this is that, eventually we'd like to see a dedicated incubator space. Actually see some of the trainings be taken care of, in terms of a space for the students to actually come in and do some of the work. So, but obviously that will require future funding, something we can talk about later. So again, how is the project working? It's really developing a great relationship between all the stakeholders we just mentioned. Again, the credential programs and all the industries we just talked about. And then for OCPC, we really want to brand this, right, and campaign this, so we can, again, expand this throughout the region, and really see what we have in terms of capabilities. So timeline, so we're actually still waiting for a contract, believe it or not. So I don't have the dates set out to this, but we have a 5-day session. So really, starting off with our kickoff meeting, which is actually going to be Monday, believe it or not. So, really doing that and understanding what the needs are. Then phase 2 is really doing the research on the branding, drafting strategy, the investment plan, and then finally, obviously, doing public rollout when we're ready. So
That's it, right?
that's pretty much it. So
Okay, and I guess I just weigh in real quickly, just to sort of reiterate some of what Paul said. This grant's a pretty big deal for us in the region. Like Paul mentioned, there's at least 60 companies within the Route 24 corridor that contribute pretty significantly to the district's economy. I think that number is probably more like 70 to 75 once we rope in some of the food processing and food production facilities that we have a fair amount of in Brockton. And beyond the scope of the grant, I think the actual tech hub designation for this area is going to open up a lot of opportunities for the region to capture additional money, additional funding for things like industry development, infrastructure, and workforce. But it has a pretty good chance to be a real catalyst for a lot of good things. And I also want to give a shout out and thanks to Jason Hunter and Lorraine Albert from Mass Hire Greater Brockton and Laura Buckley from Mass Hire South Shore. They've all played big critical roles in the application. We're looking forward to all working closely together on those as partners.
Any comments, questions? Someone with them? Any questions?
Nope.
No. Thanks, Paul. Good job. Awesome. Next item is the Brownfield Assessment Grant. So we've been working on this and talking about this for a while. This is a $500,000 grant to assess the contaminated sites across our district and any development potential or redevelopment potential. Nick's been working called, Philip's OCPC's been working with Verdantis.
Yep.
And Tracy Costos scheduled to come and talk with us today, but she had a commitment that came up, she couldn't attend. So Nick's gonna
Sure.
for us and explain what's going on.
Sure, so, I know we covered this a little bit in past meetings, so, I'll cover just a quick refresher on what this is about. We're now, officially in year 3 of this 4-year grant. It was $500,000, like Jonathan said. While you received some updates on this project at our meetings, I thought it might just be good to catch everyone up on what's been done thus far. We're really getting close to wrapping up our contractual activities. So we've spent a fair amount of our budget on our assessment activities through Verdantis, and we've accomplished a lot. So like I said, this was a grant, actually Dottie from Mass Development, while you were at OCPC, had applied to this grant and we were successful. So we got $500,000 from the EPA to conduct what's called phase 1 and phase 2 assessments. Phase 1 being basically a comprehensive research on what's been done at the site, what type of industry or what types of contamination may be anticipated from its past life. And phase 2s are essentially sampling the soil for testing to find out exactly what's in it. So through the 4-year grant, OCPC was able to hire and put out for an RFP to hire a QEP, a qualified environmental professional, to conduct those activities and assist with planning for cleanup and redevelopment of any commercial or industrial properties, or any type of property really, in communities in our district, primarily along or within proximity of the MBTA commuter rail. And these are properties that, have been stymied by contamination for some time. We have a lot of old mill style buildings or old pieces of land and buildings that were used in a past life that really contributed negatively to the environment. So that's sort of the point of the program. We use these monies to assess what the contamination is at these locations, address it, or find out what's in there for the community to address, and then lead toward a path of redevelopment. So this is just, I'll try to skim through this quickly. This is what we've been able to accomplish so far. So we did 6 phase 1s and 3 phase 2s. We did a couple in Kingston, so I'll cover this more in a little bit, but we have 10 to 20 Maple Street, and 8 Maple, I think. 8 Maple in here. We have 3 parcels in Kingston that we have positioned for a potential land assembly that were contaminated. So we did a couple phase 1s there. Easton, we had a couple properties, and we also looked at the Regal Shoe site on Route 27 in Whitman, which I'll cover. We're working on now, and the light control plant in Hanson, 100 Hawks Ave, which is just south of Route 27. I think that's it. So in the 2 additional ones we added most recently, we've engaged the town of Pembroke. Their fire station in Pembroke Center is going to be vacant sometime in the remote future. And we know that's a property that's probably slated pretty well for mixed use or redevelopment of some type. So we're taking a look at that to address any contamination or assess what contamination it may have. And just down the road is 144 Center Street, which is the former Council on Aging building, also almost adjacent to this property. But we added those 2 sites, and we may or may not have additional money to spend on additional assessments, but that's where we are today.
Nick, let me just,
Sure.
so just a little context on those phase 1s, 6, we actually looked at nearly 20 sites. So those are the sites that came up, we panned out on the phase 1. So there's been a lot more work, just beyond what's there. So nearly 20 sites were looked at.
Yeah, and it's been a fairly useful exercise for that. So, while we've looked at a ton of properties, like Don mentioned, there's a lot of properties that we looked at and couldn't proceed with because of access issues and that sort of thing. But we now know where some of those properties are in terms of where they need to be. So we can come back and maybe engage a new property owner about assessing that property or trying to figure out what it could be, what its reuse could be later on. So while we've looked at a lot, it has been pretty productive to look at all these properties and find out where they're at.
How do you identify, how do you know?
Some of them are already brownfields labeled, by the state. Mass DEP has a list of contaminated existing properties, and then if there are properties that aren't, on that list, we engage each municipality to figure out what sort of properties they have that have been standing still for a while, they know are contaminated, or they assume or anticipate could be contaminated, so. So this is this is one of our sites that we're looking at, Regal Shoe. So at this point, you know, we've assessed the potential for redevelopment or reuse planning to conduct under the grant in-house. Obviously, the first site here with some real promise is that Regal Shoe site in Whitman. This property abuts the MBTA commuter rail station on Route 27. It's about less than a mile walk to the downtown, so it's got a great location. Under one of the cleanup scenarios laid out in our phase 2 report, cleanup behind the existing building along South Ave would open up about 2.5 acres of land for a new mixed-use TOD style project. So that's a good site that we're planning to conduct some redevelopment reuse planning for. Just admit this person. Kingston, so this is our 3 parcel site in Kingston that I mentioned. Also poses a pretty ideal opportunity for a potential 14-acre land assembly that could probably be host to housing of some type, or even a potentially mixed-use development project. And this is, if you're familiar with this area, it's a very short walk to their business district on Route 3A. This is where the train tracks come through 3A. It has a pretty vibrant corporate corridor there, dining options, local convenience shops, and it's got great access to a lot of natural and recreational assets. There's parks and trails, nice wetlands and stuff, and watersheds, and sort of a great environment for residents of some type. 172, 144 Center. So these are the 2 sites in downtown Pembroke. 172 Center is the site on the left, which is the central fire station. So this sits on a 2-acre lot, has some frontage along the busy intersection of routes 14 and 36. This is also directly across from the center's retail plaza, which is home to a number of businesses, and just a walk from what would be considered, I guess, the town's municipal hub. Is the town hall is there, the brand new $22 million community center, council on aging, the police station. And nearly adjacent to that is 144 Center, which was home to the former council on aging. Also nearly 2 acres with significant frontage for mixed use or retail, probably retail. I know the Pembroke master plan called for additional small business, so there's a potential there. I think that's it. That's all for that.
Any questions or comments on this? It's good. Robert, while you're up, Jake.
Yeah.
You guys have, that's nothing you're not doing, we don't sit on that.
So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff. I'll just skim through these rather quickly. I know I already sort of, well, I suppose I can give you sort of a heads up on our situation with the EDA. So, we have basically 4 applications into them now that we're waiting to hear back on. Our Avon sewer design project, the regional wastewater study, our annual planning grant, which we're still waiting on, and the most recently submitted Easton sewer design project. So I know I've tried to keep the commission updated on this, but the lack of movement with anything at the EDA lately was only exacerbated by the shutdown. So now that has ended, hopefully we'll get some response or update from them and find out if people are still employed over there. So no updates on those projects since they're pending proposals, but I think I covered most of them at our last meeting. So essentially, we've submitted these EDA applications, and while we had some hope or we had some reason to be optimistic at our June meeting, they issued a no vote for a bunch of EDA's programs. But we haven't really heard anything after having submitted these things, so hopefully we'll find out.
Yeah, let me just jump in. So the 2 regional grants, the wastewater and the annual planning grant, we're hoping those are gonna pass, at least one of them is gonna pass. And at least one of the D&E projects will pop as well. So that list is about $6 million, and about 800K of that comes to OCPC. So, they're really significant, important projects for the district as well as the agency. So, you know, we continue to work with our legislative folks at the federal level and try to move these projects and get some answers from a commerce secretary. So the
Well, sweet.
recently opened up and we're back at it, so we just keep, plugging away.
What was happening before the government shutdown, still quiet?
But still, we're still, some of these projects, I can't really go into much detail as to where they are. But some of these projects should be popping. In other words, coming our way for awards. They're sitting in the secretary's office. So, what we get in affirmative, we just keep, pushing them all the way out.
Okay, and so our commercial site inventory, so we finally officially completed this. I know we showed bits and pieces of it to the commission last June. If you haven't already checked it out on our website, I strongly encourage you to check it out. Megan from our team did a splendid job structuring the design and layout, so it was a lot of thought into how the user function would operate and what it would look like. Working with Megan and Dawn, we sat down and figured out exactly how it would function. It looks great, and we hope it's informative for people who use it. East Bridgewater sewer construction. I know if you've been driving around the district at all or passed through East Bridgewater recently, you've probably seen some ongoing construction along Thatcher Street and elsewhere. Sewer installation project subsidized by the EDA is now in full swing. I won't speak for Charlie, but expected completion maybe sometime late spring. And non-EDA stuff. So at the June 4th meeting, I briefly mentioned that we'd be working with the town of Whitman on a downtown improvement strategy that they received funding for through a state earmark. At the time, we were developing a scope, but now that project is also in full swing. So far, we've been able to accomplish a comprehensive existing conditions assessment that's been completed, and we're working on a data analysis of the target area. So this is also OCPC's first project to experiment with AI generated conceptual images. So that's kind of fun. We've been experimenting with that. So this is going to be a great project, and will have substantial value for the town. Lastly, Charlie, I know I've been bugging you about this. The East Bridgewater Business Assistance Projects remains ongoing. We've made a lot of progress on this over the last few months. Charlie, I know I've sent you a lot of material to review. So I appreciate all the helpful feedback. Yeah, absolutely. And we got a draft of the business resource guide in the works. And we're now wrapping up a best practices document that will probably be coming to you guys soon for review. This, but next slide. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're finally at the point now where the SEDS document is now complete. We spent a good amount of time on this, and I think we have a pretty good product to show for it. We wanted to make this 5-year plan a bit more concise and to the point than in previous ones, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. Moving forward here, I know you've all received the document, but what I want to do is just run through a fairly quick presentation that covers most of the important elements, and then from there we can try to answer some questions and then take a vote on recommending it favorable to the council. So as a quick refresher on the SEDS document, as an EDA designated economic development district, or what we call an EDD, OCPC is required to maintain and update an economic development plan every 5 years. This allows us to unlock the federal support that's available through the EDA by essentially aligning local priorities with the resources we need for resilience. So put more simply, it's essentially a collaborative data-driven roadmap for growth in the region that will enable us eligibility for those EDA grants and the technical assistance that's available. But I think its real value is serving as a tool for all of us, OCPC and our 17 communities, on where to focus economic development efforts over the next few years. So this is an outline essentially of what the document is comprised of. So these sections are what the EDA's SEDS guidelines essentially call for. It's broken down into key sections. Data analysis reveals trends. The SWOT identifies strengths and weaknesses. Our goals and objectives outline what you might call, or we refer to as a 6-pillar vision for growth. Economic resilience focuses on adaptation strategies, and the recommended projects section at the end translate all of this into some level of real world action that we can anticipate taking on in each community. So data analysis and key trends. So numbers tell a story, right? And ours here is certainly one of growth, but with some gathering challenges. I'm not going to bore everyone by combing through all the numbers. You can take a look at some of that in the report. I know most of you have probably glanced at it at this point, but just a quick synopsis or takeaway from the data. Population and employment have expanded at rates exceeding state benchmarks over the past decade. However, the long-term projections indicate deceleration and potential contraction by 2050. So obviously this will necessitate proactive workforce and housing strategies. Household incomes remain pretty robust, yet interestingly, per capita earnings and wage growth lag behind Massachusetts averages. And this is compounded by rapidly raising home prices and that really challenge affordability for younger and entry-level households. Workforce trends reveal a high school attainment rate above the state average, but bachelor's degree completion falls short. And an aging labor pool with significant retirement risk drives longer commutes, or seems to be driving longer commutes as residents are seeking higher paying opportunities outside of the district or Plymouth County. One of the big ones, perhaps one of the most important takeaways from this, from an economic standpoint, industry composition is heavily weighted toward healthcare and retail. No surprise there, with manufacturing retaining strategic importance despite wage compression. Construction has seen dramatic growth, while manufacturing, finance, and wholesale trade have declined despite being among the highest paying industries. So that imbalance between job availability and wage quality could present a challenge for long-term economic stability. Infrastructure constraints are fairly acute, declining residential permitting, limited sewer and water capacity, and increasing congestion along some of our critical roadways and corridors sort of collectively restrict development potential. And many of our downtowns lack proper infrastructure for walkable, more mixed-use style business districts. So the findings from this, they directly inform the SWOT analysis and the strategic goals. So a lot of this seems a bit repetitive, but that's because it's all sort of integrated together. We take what we learned from the data and it's applied to our SWOT analysis and our goals and objectives, right? Taken together, they point to a region that is growing in complexity. It's more diverse, it's more affluent, more educated than it was a decade ago, but it seems to be more vulnerable to demographic shifts, affordability pressures, and industry transitions. So every region has its strengths and weaknesses, right? And our SWOT analysis spotlights what makes us strong and where we might need to shore up our defenses. So our strengths include excellent transportation, right? So we have highways like Route 24, Route 3, Route 44. We have our commuter rail and our airports, and proximity to education hubs and institutions, right? We have Bridgewater State College, Massasoit, Stonehill, our two vocational schools in Hanover and in Easton. And we have, vibrant natural and cultural resources. We have our coastline and our rich history. And our immediately growing population and strong incomes seem to bolster our small business ecosystem here, which seems to be fairly robust. Weaknesses, so education gaps. I know I mentioned that before. We sort of fall below state average for bachelor's attainment. Again, inadequate water and sewer infrastructure, which seems to limit development and commercial growth, and low wages and over-reliance on traditional sectors are hindering industry diversity here. As far as threats, we have an aging population that's depleting skilled labor and straining healthcare, limited industry diversity, which is heightening economic vulnerability, our roadway congestion that's impeding business and could be impacting logistics and transportation, and housing costs that are exceeding state averages. Having said all that, the region could position itself to counter these risks with opportunities that stem from our strengths. So through targeted workforce training and emerging sectors, so Route 24, industrial and commercial expansion, more mixed use style downtowns, brownfields redevelopment, and tourism growth, leveraging historic and natural assets. So to address it and capitalize on all these things, we've developed 6 goals that we think we could be striving for over the next 5 years. So the goals and objectives section is really meant to serve as sort of the mechanism for achieving the vision we want and shaping a strategic approach to economic development that prioritizes things like workforce capacity and jobs, infrastructure investment, industry diversification that I've mentioned a few times, affordability and resilience in the face of ongoing challenges. So goal A, supporting small businesses through zoning reforms and partnerships. B, enhancing workforce via training and workforce pipelines to bridge skills gaps. Expanding clusters like manufacturing, biotech, and other emerging sectors for diversification. Plans for infrastructure upgrades, water, sewer, or more consumer-friendly streetscape type amenities to encourage foot traffic and unlock growth amid limited capacity. And goal E, boosting livability with affordable housing, redevelopment of blight, and wage growth. And lastly, goal F, builds resilience against aging demographics and the pressures via industry diversification, new growth, and tourism. So the economic resilience section identifies 10 strategic focus areas to enhance adaptive capacity and long-term competitiveness. And, this section is really about weathering the storm, right? And having essentially a regional economy that can withstand pressure from economic fluctuations. So priority is given to things like business investment, optimization of transportation corridors, and acceleration of high-value sectors, including the areas mentioned: biotech, cyber, marine innovation, advanced manufacturing, wage competitiveness, and critical infrastructure expansion, particularly sewer and water, continue to emerge as foundational enablers of growth. And land use diversification, academic industry alignment, and tourism development sort of round out a balanced approach to what we would foresee as revenue stability. So I'd say collectively, these areas should position the region to better absorb shocks, capitalize on opportunities, and really sustain prosperity through 2030 and potentially beyond. So to operationalize the 6 strategic goals that we covered, the SEDS, at the end of the SEDS, we present a curated portfolio of high impact projects designated to generate employment, secure private investment, and strengthen long-term regional competitiveness. So I'm not going to list each and every project that we've identified, but essentially they span 6 critical categories that are spelled out here. And collectively, I'd say that I think we have 20 plus projects in the document that are really projected to catalyze maybe hundreds of millions in private capital and thousands of new jobs, which obviously would deliver measurable progress toward a far more resilient regional economy. But the EDA opportunities in individual communities, we've totaled to be around $122 million worth of investment and roughly $2.5 million of regional projects that we can take a look at. So these are huge, and this section is perhaps the most important, and going forward will really be our go-to resource for where we can make the most impact in the OCPC district with projects. So I believe that's all I had on that. So that sort of sums up the slides we have on the SEDS document. I hope you've all had a chance to take a look at and learn a little bit about the state of the region by going through it. And I guess I'd say thanks to everyone for the feedback that we've received along the way, particularly over the last few weeks and few days. I know we've got some feedback that we'll be incorporating. And anyway, I've talked a lot on this, and I know we're watching the clock, but we're happy to hear from folks on questions, comments, and when we're done with that, I just ask that the chairman proceed with a full vote of the commission on the documents approved.
Questions, comments, opinions?
Actually, I'd say that I'd like to commend everyone that worked on it. I thought it was very comprehensive, yet not overly heavy, I guess. That's not the right word, but wasn't 200 pages long. I thought it was concise and compelling, and actually a lot of interesting facts and things. So I just want to commend.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, and I was gonna say that the point that we wanted to sort of streamline things, we wanted the document to be pretty accessible and easy to navigate for communities who really want to use it as a resource, right? So as best we could, we tried to prevent fluff and anything that wasn't completely necessary so that people would be able to use it fairly easy and use it as a guide for what they want to do in their communities.
Is there, on page 2, it talks about how population has grown 10%. but the projections through 2050 are potential decline in population. Has there been any change to that? I mean, there was a lot of, since the 2000 census, there's been a lot of immigration in, possibly out, who knows? Has there been any updated data?
No, I know, if it hasn't been released yet, the 2024 statistics on demographics, if they're not out yet, they will be out any day. I would anticipate that maybe there could be some change. It's unfortunate that, you know, this stuff, it would have been great to add maybe an additional year to see where we are more currently. 2023 is just the last we had. I haven't heard anything or seen anything else since that hasn't come out, but we'll be monitoring closely. And I will say too, you know, down the road, if we decide, you know, we'll approve this today, but down the road, if we decide we want to change the document, we're able to do that through a process. So if we want to make amendments to this over the next 5 years, we're able to do that next year during the commission meetings.
So you're briefly talked about healthcare and retail being dominant industry sectors in the region. But the executive summary talks about healthcare and social assistance.
Yeah, healthcare and social assistance is healthcare. Yeah, they're considered one group.
Oh, okay, I see, okay.
It may have not been completely consistent in how we describe it, but yeah, healthcare and social assistance, according to the census statistics, are categorized by healthcare and social
It's
assistance.
an industry sector.
Yeah.
Last question, page 3, the goal A on improving zoning policy, streamlining permitting. That made me think about some of the stuff I'm hearing from the planning groups like Strong Towns or the New Urbanism, where they want to basically lift zoning restrictions and foster more looseness so that more dense development is feasible. Yeah, are you taking a position on that, or are you just sort of?
Yeah,
neutral,
no,
or
I think so, absolutely. We're encouraging through that goal. I think we're encouraging towns to look at their zoning and look at their permitting processes to make it more easier. So as opposed to going to ZBA for everything, if there's a way to improve zoning in some of local bylaw to prevent extra steps to make it easier to develop things that we need, I'd say certainly we're taking a position on that to encourage communities to do more to streamline processes.
Yeah, it just gives the flexibility to the communities to determine their own fate, but it's a consideration to.
And having reviewed some, you know, many of our communities' bylaws and around zoning already, I mean, we tend to see that, you know, a lot of communities, when they look at this stuff, it's going to ZBA for a special permit or whatever is always a lot more work. So we try to see, so what we're seeing from communities is making changes to that, update it so that they can make things more seamlessly and encourage new growth. Shane?
Yeah, just a quick comment. So if we're looking to entertain amendments within the next 5 years on this, I just want to see if we can have some consideration for the town of Bridgewater for some EDA projects. I know that we've been heavily involved, I think, through the last 5-year plan through regional studies. But I just want to throw our name out here while I'm here, just to our consideration on that.
Yeah, so we can amend the document at any point, so if there's projects that we haven't identified and that emerge, we can add those to the list.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and we wouldn't, you know, I would assume that, you know, obviously over the next 5 years as new things arise. Yeah, that's part of the process. If something comes up, maybe it wasn't initially noted, something that we missed or something that is just new. Definitely be an opportunity over the next 5 years to incorporate something else, a new additional project or something different to the existing SEDS plan. Anyone remote have any questions about presentation or the final document? Joe?
Yeah, so Nick, on page 3, goal F, the last line in the document seemed to not be completed. So
Page
just take a look
3.
at that. Yeah, goal F.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah. I feel like it got cut off.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. We'll take a look at that and fix it up. I'm not sure.
Sure. And then while I have the floor, any considerations given to climate resiliency and energy independence or clean energy generation going forward?
You can answer. Phil.
So you gotta be conscious of the fact that this is a federal document. And
Sure,
we elected not to include that type of language in it, or projects like
Understood.
that. Yeah,
got you.
otherwise it wouldn't get approved.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Anyone else? We're good, all right. At this time, we'll move from our presentation. Thanks, Nick.
Yep.
To consider the full motion for recommending the approval of the 2025-2030 says document. This proposed motion states that this body, the Old Colony Economic Development Commission, recommends a 2025-2030 comprehensive economic development strategy document favorably to the OCPC Council for full adoption. Is there a motion? So moved, second. Motion moved and properly seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Very nice. The motion carries and the 2025-2030 says document will be recommended favorably for the OCPC Council. Right. All right.
Great work, you guys are.
Nice job, guys. Before we adjourn, I just want to thank OCPC, Nick, Don, Paul, Marion, and everybody here that worked on this. It's an excellent document. And everybody in the council, on the commission, on the commission that took time to just sit for these meetings and make recommendations and have input. Really shows we care about our community and want to succeed. We're gonna make it a better place to live and work. Thank you.
And just before we adjourn, so this is the last meeting of the year, right? So we'll do what I've done in last year and in previous years. So I'll be reaching out to folks and seeing if anyone's thinking about maybe stepping down or if they want to stay on. I just want to shore up membership for next year and if things change and no one has, certain people don't have time or they'd like to continue. I'll try to be reaching out to you sometime soon to make sure that the membership in 2026 continues. So plan on over the next couple of weeks or next month or so that I'll be reaching out to find out if your participation on the committee is still valid. So.
Great. I was remiss not to thank my co-chair. Thank you.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.